2. This is my part 2 about how to draw Aquaman, Jason Momoa Aquaman. We're having a lot of fun. So this particular video, this is what I call basic finishing. So this is the actual penciling stage for a lot of you if you are, drawing comic books. But me personally, I like to go straight to ink. So whatever you see me do, because I'm doing this with an ink pen, you could do this with a pencil. And again, I mentioned this in the last video. If you are a beginning artist, you're trying out this tutorial, first of all, thank you for trying to something a little bit more advanced. But remember, use a pencil, okay? I implore you, use a pencil because, especially if you're making mistakes, be easier to fix. Me personally, I'm so used to drawing with ink now that, it's just faster for me. And any mistakes I do, I can correct them pretty simply with, some corrector fluid or work it or cover it with black or something. Anyway, so let's get into actually finishing, okay, this particular Jason Momoa Aquaman, and let's do that right now. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna start with the finishing, and I always start with the face because, let's be honest, the face is probably the most important part to a certain degree, but in this particular picture here, the face has to look right. So I always start with the eyes, and to me that's the most important part of the face is the eyes. For the most part, you can get away with a lot of things with the face if the eyes look correct, but the rest of the face could look perfect, but if the eyes aren't correct, then it could lose the whole feeling of the particular actor here. So I'm being very conservative with my lines here, and again thinking a little bit about lighting. With light coming down, I believe the lighting is coming from the top left, if I'm not mistaken. So there's going to be a little bit of shade underneath the eyebrow where it meets the eye there. And if you look at the reference beside it, you can see how the eyebrow meets the eye. So I was trying to mimic that. Okay, so here I go, and I'm drawing in the lips here, and then the beard itself. Now I think the most interesting part about drawing this Jason Momoa Aquaman would be the actual hair itself. So here I'm going ahead and outlining the beard. Okay, so trying to find that transition, the way the beard touches the face. So I'm just adding some cross-hatching lines to kind of make that feeling. Okay, so as you can see here, the beard doesn't go all the way up to his lips. There is a little bit of skin that's showing, and again, you could see that in the reference. So I'm just pretty much outlining the hair at this point, and when I'm outlining the hair, I'm actually thinking about it more in clumps more than anything. But the lighting really comes into play here. As you see here, I'm actually adding in some black here, and thinking about how the light's going to hit this particular beard here. So the way I inked it here, you can see there's lighting on the top part of the beard, so meaning light's hitting that top part, and it actually makes the beard feel a little bit more roundish. Okay, so hopefully you could feel that. And I decided to take my Sharpie and go ahead and just start laying in the blacks. Now, usually in this stage I don't lay down too heavy blacks, but at the same time, Jason Momoa's hair connotates a lot of dark areas because it is darker hair, even though it has lighter highlights to it. So just imagining how the light would hit that particular hair there. And then at the end here, just drawing in some extra strands of hair. And at the end, it does cover a lot of the lighting, but as you can see, you do end up having little hits of light. So as I go here and I'm starting to render the hair, it's pretty much, I'm just, thinking about the strands of hair and how they would work and how they would go around certain parts. Now remember a couple things. First of all, like we mentioned before in the other video, the hair is frizzy. He does have frizzy hair because he's been in the water a lot. He has frizzy hair, so the hair wouldn't be very smooth at all. It would be curly and around like so. It would be very messy. But at the same time, also thinking about the lighting. Okay, so if you look at it carefully, where I think there would be more light, I'm actually adding more detail to it. And where there's less light, I add a little bit less detail to it. But again, I'm thinking a little bit more in clumps of hair as opposed to individual strands. Again, if you're drawing every single itty-bitty individual strand, you are going to be drawing a lot of lines. It will just get lost to begin with. But as you can see at the edges here, I keep them pretty... I'm not saying clean, there is a lot of detail in them, but lighter. Okay, so you could see a little bit of rim light. And finishing it off with a little dark line around the head, and that kind of separates it for everything. Okay, so now let's go ahead with the particular body here, and with just a fine liner here, I'm just outlining all of the major lines. okay? And especially with this AQUAMAN suit, as you can tell, extremely complicated. So I'm just going ahead and outlining all of these lines. Now again, this video sped up. This video sped up 5 times, okay? So this is taking me 5 times longer. Feel free to pause, you know, if you are trying to draw along with me. Of course, you probably can't draw in real time because this shortened this video down to 10 minutes. But as you can see here, I'm just pretty much following the lines here, and that's where the construction point is actually very important, especially if you're going straight to ink. Again, I suggest you don't do this straight to ink, especially if this is your first time drawing something like this. Don't be like, oh, I want to be exactly like James. You could achieve the same thing with a pencil, with the option of erasing. See, I don't have the option of erasing, so kind of forcing myself to try to make sure it's right the first time around. But in order to do so, your construction has to be right. But again, all of these lines here, the way you lay them out, okay, it's very important because they have to feel like they are going around the surface, and that's very important here. So I can't just draw straight lines without understanding how those lines would go around a particular surface here. So as you can see, those lines on the side there, they have to feel like they are going around his midsection, around his body, okay? All this detail in the front here, they have to feel like they are going around that particular surface, and that is extremely important. So here I go. Here I'm just adding a little bit more detail down the stomach. So analyze your reference. Really do analyze your reference and get a lot of it, because especially with AQUAMAN, he has a lot of intricate detail in his actual outfit itself, even doing this a little bit more simply, okay? And believe it or not, this is the more simple version. The next video will be the more complex version, okay? So going to the gauntlet here, and as you can tell here, the line weight itself, it's very even, okay? I'm not going into thick lines yet because I'm just trying to get all of the detail I want to get in with this simpler, quote-unquote simpler version here. Okay, going ahead, outlining the hands there, and now outlining the little insignia belt that he has there going on. Okay, getting all of that in. Again, feel free to pause whenever you can. You'll probably be pausing a lot if you're trying to follow along here. Okay, but again, pants, it doesn't matter. This entire costume is full of detail, and the way the different strands attach to each other, it's very interesting as well. So you will have to study it, okay? You will have to study exactly how it goes, all right? So here, drawing the gauntlet, drawing all the lines in the gauntlet. Now, you will notice there is more detail inside, and we will get to that with the next video. But I'm actually drawing the detail that I believe is the most important here. Okay, drawing the hands, you see a little thumbnail there at the top, okay? And here, drawing the lines on the chest. Again, very important. I do a double line just to add a little bit more detail, but you see how it curves around the chest. It makes it feel. It doesn't feel flat now, the chest. It does feel round. The way I draw these lines around the arm, okay? You see the way I curve it around. The way I curve it around, because I want you to feel the roundness of that particular muscle there. The way I do these curved lines on the forearm here, it has to make it feel round, okay? So you really, and I always mention this, you have to think of your characters in 3D. You have to imagine these lines going around a surface as opposed to a flat image, and that will make your drawing so much better. This is something I picked up when I was actually doing 3D modeling. I never really thought about it. Even when I was working in comics, I didn't really even think about that until I started actually working with 3D. So getting that understanding will help a lot. But again, so much detail going around in this particular outfit here. Like the legs, especially with the way that all these lines interconnect, it's really complex. So don't just go into it. And again, make sure your layout is tight, okay? I would tightly lay out this even more. Even if this stage, if you want to call this your layout stage, like do all this roughly, then by all means do it, because especially with a costume like this, if you want to get extremely accurate, you're going to need to lay it out properly. Now, this is a French curve. A lot of you have been asking me, how do I use a French curve? In a situation like this, where the line isn't completely straight, that's where I would use the French curve, using all sorts of different curves, okay? Now, there is no rule on how to exactly use this French curve. Use it the way it benefits you the most, but for curved lines that go a little bit longer, I usually like to use it. Now, sometimes I will freehand, as you've seen here. I do freehand a lot of it. As you can see here, the little sharp edges here, I'm freehanding. Again, I'm comfortable with that because of years of experience, okay? So if you want to use the French curve for those particular points too, by all means go ahead. But for the staff, I will use a straight line, especially if the lines are extremely long. Sometimes I will use the French curve for lines if the lines are shorter. It just gives the edge a little bit more, personality. But if it's a longer line, then you will end up needing a straighter edge. And to finish this off, I will go ahead and start putting a darker outline across the whole body here. What that does, it just adds a little finishing touch. It separates areas, as you see here, it separates the arm from the body, okay? It separates this the shoulder pad from the arm, okay? So wherever you believe, you know, there needs that sort of separation, you would add that thick line. You wouldn't add this everywhere. This is just around the major parts of the body. And there you go. That is an Aquaman basic finishing. So there you go. This is my Jason Momoa Aquaman. And again, guys, you could stop right here. You could definitely stop right here. It looks great. I think it looks great. But if you want to go into even more detail than this, that's what the next video is for. As you know, his armor, there's so many of these little scales and little itty bitty bits of detail, and I'm gonna draw all of it. And if you want to give it a try, join me in the next video. So with this original art, I actually now have this piece of artwork, the original art. I have this available for sale on my online store. All of my Justice League characters that I drew for Inktober, they are up for sale if you are an art collector interested in original art. And for this week, I am putting out some brand new prints, most especially my Justice League print. These are my Justice League characters I drew for Inktober, fully colored, and I have two versions, one with Superman and one without Superman. The Superman one is the Joss Whedon version because, as you guys know, for Inktober I drew the black Superman with the beard, so I had to digitally remove the beard. So I have my Joss Whedon version of the Justice League poster and the Zack Snyder version of the Justice League poster. Go check that out. If you're interested in any of those as prints, please do let me know. Check out also my print shop down below, my commission prices down below. I would really appreciate that, and thank you guys for watching. You guys are the best. Please continue to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you are new here, and my name is James. I am the box office artist. I'm here to say keep drawing, and I'll see you all next time.